What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Emerald Grappling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Murphy. Today, I'm at Éire Grapple in Tullamore, and I'm joined by Kieran Davern. He is a second-degree black belt. He's the head coach and owner of Éire Grapple, and he's the president of ADCC Ireland. Kieran, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, I was so excited when I reached out and you replied nearly instantly, especially with last weekend with ADCC happening. So, trying to hit while the iron's hot.
Yeah. But now I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So maybe for anyone who doesn't know you, maybe you could tell us about yourself and how you got started in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. I got started in Jiu-Jitsu. I think kind of mid 2000s. I started in Portlaoise in a club called Tuatha De Danann under John Ging. Myself and Kieran O'Donnell, Shane Smith, Marco Conroy, Charlie Ward, to name a few, all came from that kind of. Came from that club, and a load of other good lads as well, and kind of went looking for MMA. Obviously, seeing the the early UFCs and the early kind of cage rage and stuff like that. That's why I kind of watched when I was younger, and if I looked for MMA, and then ended up finding jiu-jitsu through that. So that's how I kind of got started. My first session in jiu-jitsu was in a Mockra Hall in Portlaoise. I remember, driving up to the hall, and I heard a lot of kind of heavy metal music and that playing in the background, and I went up to the door, had my hand in the door, had to borrow a car off my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and it was a Ford Fiesta that had no power steering, so barely had any money. It was kind of working on the building site, tipping away and stuff like that, and wanted to get into MMA. And long story short, drove up to the building, had my hand on the door, and I heard say all the music and lads hitting pads and that, and in the background, real kind of rough looking hall. It was nothing fancy or anything like that. It was like a Mockra Hall in Portlaoise, and I had my hand on the door, and I was like, oh, I'm not going in. And then something just came over to me, and I was just like, oh, fuck it, and I just pushed down the handle and I walked through the door, and that changed my life.
And that was many years ago. And now look,
yeah,
leading your own gym, second degree black belt.
Yeah.
And you fought in MMA as well, haven't you?
Fought in MMA as well, yeah.
And you were saying the early 2000s, it's 2025 now. I'd imagine there has been such a big change in jiu-jitsu in the last few years.
Oh yeah, it's been that much of a change that you nearly forget how it was. So one of my kind of early memories was there was very little information, as in techniques and stuff online. YouTube was just it was barely a thing, you know what I mean? I remember there was one channel on it that we used to look at. It was called Submissions 101, and it was like a 10 planet brown belt or black belt or something like that, and he used to show he used to wear gi pants, rash guard, and he just show lockdown, and not there's anything wrong with it, but it was very kind of old school, kind of banana splits and this type of stuff, and we could only get, obviously we had our coaches and stuff like that, but there was no BJJ fanatics or anything like that. I remember a DVD went around the club a couple of years later, and it was on Darce Chokes by 10 Planet Brown Belt as well, and we handed it out to each other, and then a Darce Choke became a staple of my game, only because we had that DVD to learn from, you know what I mean? But yeah, competition wise, night and day, completely different. Even the amount of people that go to tournaments and the venues that tournaments are held in and that now are completely different. It was just the level, the young lads that are competing today and stuff like that, are just they're like professionals, or at least they train like professionals, and their strength conditioning programs and their weight cutting's on point, and diet, nutrition, everything's just it's night and day. It's completely different.
It is, and you often see people sharing on Instagram, Darrell O'Connell often shares pictures of when he first started competing, and it's in a community hall with puzzle mats.
Yeah.
But now you look, we're at competitions that are in massive venues. We've got the real good quality mats, and as you were saying, it's nearly more of a professional approach to the sport.
It is, in fairness, yeah. The last 5 to 10 years or something like that, there's, especially last 5 years, there's been a big step up in competition. A lot of that's got to do with the standard that the IBJF and that hold around Europe and that, and they've kind of set the standards for how tournaments and that should be ran, and that has a trickle down effect. If you go to Europeans or something like that, and you look at the amount of mats they have, and the way the bullpen is ran, and the judges and the uniforms that the referees and the officials are wearing, it looks very professional. It looks very kind of Olympic kind of, if you've ever been to IMAFs or looked at the IMAFs, it's kind of like quite similar. It's very like professional and clean.
Systematic.
Systematic. Everyone's in a uniform and it just brings a bit more professionalism to the sport, rather than back in the day when we were kind of going to competitions. It was like tap out t-shirts, and there was no like, it was just it's just completely different now. Even uniforms, even back in the day, and that if a friend was going to America, he'd get you like a tap out t-shirt or something like that. But it was like very hard to get rash guards or anything like that. Now you might be able to order them online. We used to order them on I think eBay, and you'd be waiting like months to get them. Like say, whereas now you could just like order from Tatami or something like that, or just drive to a store and pick up a rash guard and a pair of shorts. So like getting a tap out rash guard back in the day, or Extreme Couture was another one. It was Randy Couture's brand, and like getting one of those was like gold dust. So completely different. Even the coaching and that is like, you've had people that have come from that time that are now black belts, first degree, second degree, third degree black belts and stuff like that, and they have just have like so much experience and so much knowledge in coaching and competitions and just like running practices and training sessions and stuff like that. So overall, it's got a lot better.
Yeah, and you would see people even drawing influence from other sports, how they structure everything as well. And again, you touched on like there was no YouTube at the time, but now you have anything and everything like accessible at your fingertips. So there's so much information to be circulated, and anything can be learned. Like DVDs, as you were saying back in the day, like if you got one of them, you probably watch it that often to the point where the DVD stops working.
Yeah, 100%. And you didn't want to scratch it for the next lad. Do you know what I mean? Because if you scratched it, he might miss a chunk of the DVD on, I don't know, the finish on the Darce choke or something like that. But completely different times. It was good times as well. Like when we were starting out, we used to go to these halls and that we were training in, and we'd have to take the mats down at the beginning of class. We'd take them down from the stage, judo mats, and the green and red ones, like to burn the feet off you.
Yeah.
And we'd put them down, say on the hall, and we'd all train for like hours. So we loved it, and then we put them back up at the end of the session. And I remember when I first found jiu-jitsu, it was like, honestly, it was like a superpower. You honestly felt like a superpower. It was like, because no one had it. And it wasn't like there was no, like McGregor didn't break through in the UFC at this stage, and it was like, say, a good few years before that. This is kind of like back when I was training, it was like when, just before Tom Egan broke into the UFC. So it was like we were a couple of years training then, and then Tom Egan he fought in Dublin at UFC 93, and Tom Egan actually came down and coached us a couple of sessions in a hall in Mount Mellick. And I remember him showing us a single leg for the first time, and like our minds were like blown. I was like, oh, this lad is like completely different level. This lad was meant to be getting ready to, he was getting ready to fight in the UFC, and he obviously fought John Hathaway in at UFC 93 in, I think it was the Point Depot at the time. And it was great times, and it was like, it's nice to look back on it as well, to see how far you've come, and how far the sport has come, and the lads I've trained with, and the gym and everything else. But the problem with when you're always looking forward, you never really stop and look at, how far you've come, unless someone asks you a question like this, which is probably good as well, do you know what I mean, to kind of reflect.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then you opened Éire Grapple in, was it 2014?
2012.
2012.
Yeah,
apologies.
2012, yeah.
And was that just because you were probably traveling for so far and you decided, I need someone somewhere closer to home to train?
Yeah.
Or did you always know that you were going to open your own gym at some point?
I'd say the first, like, as in, I was training in Long Mile Road with John Kavanagh, and this was kind of like it was just after the kind of the Cage Contender days and the start of the kind of like the Cage Warriors days. So it was kind of like that time where SVG were kind of doing really well. They were kind of cleaning up a Cage Contenders. You like say loads of lads that were just kind of collecting belts from SVG on Cage Contender, and then they were kind of like breaking into Cage Warriors, and then they obviously went on to fight in the UFC and stuff like that. So I was travelling up to John Kavanagh as much as I could in Long Mile Road, and like I said, like back in the day, it was like magic. Like I remember like learning how to do a north-south choke when I was up in Long Mile, and I was like anything I learned was like gold dust, because you didn't have BJJ Fanatics. You could literally download the best, like whoever's the best at north-south chokes right now, and you could spend like anywhere from 3 to maybe 9 hours of them just like teaching you basically a lecture, like the way you get like a lecture in college. You look at the way like Danaher teaches and that, like I know he was a a lecturer in college, but that comes across in his teaching and stuff like that. It's like you're sitting down with a professor or a lecturer in college, and he's teaching you, on a certain subject, whether it's leg locks or wrestling or whatever it might be. So back in the day when it was worth driving up to Dublin to get those kind of gems and then to train with the level that was up there, and it really felt like something special was building as well. Like, this is before anyone got to the UFC and stuff like that. You could feel something in the room. There was like energy in the room, and it felt like something that I'd never felt before. Do you know what I mean? It was like, felt like something really special was building. But obviously, driving from Tullamore up and down, it was it would take, it takes a lot of I suppose money, number one, and time and everything else. So I was like, right, how am I gonna get better? And the goal was to basically set up my own place. So I had training partners, could drill the stuff that I learned in Dublin. And then the other thing was, I was at the Dole, and I was on the Dole at the time. I served my apprenticeship as a bricklayer when I was younger, and we all got let go because of the crash after 2008 and that. And for me, that was my way out. I always loved sports and loved martial arts. I was in martial arts from like 7 years of age, and I was always in sports. When I was in school, and that wasn't the best in the classroom, but if a teacher come in and said, does anyone want to do the long jump, or anyone want to do the cross country race next weekend, my hand always went up. It was anyone, I was playing football, I was playing hurling, I was playing soccer, I was doing like 200 meter, 400 meter, I was just doing anything involved with sports, you know what I mean? So I knew I wanted to have a life in sports, and then I played soccer at a good level when I was younger, and martial arts was always a part of my family, and part of my dad did martial arts and stuff like that, so I kind of seen it a lot when I was growing up. And I just knew after the recession that this is what kind of I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue this full time and make a career of it, and just live that kind of martial arts life, and then eventually it just took a snowball effect, and it just kept growing and growing, and it turned into what it is today. But in the beginning, I only set it up so I could train full time and to pay my fees in Dublin, and to put a bit of bread and eggs and kind of basic on the table, and kind of like put some fuel in the car and stuff like that. That was it. And then it just built into something else, and I loved it. I was passionate about it, and I wanted to do it every day, and I still do it every day. You know what I mean? And if I'm not doing it, I'm doing it in some capacity at home, where I'm trying to get better at. I'm learning, whether that's to become a better coach, or just become a better athlete, or just more knowledge in jiu-jitsu, or whatever it might be. So I just don't switch off.
And it's just constantly going as well.
Constant, yeah.
And it's provided you with opportunities to compete on some of the biggest shows. So you've competed on locally, like Grapple Kings, but you've competed at Grapplefest and Polaris.
Yeah.
Was there any of them matches that kind of stands out the most for you, most memorable, whether it was the fact that it was your first show, or even the opponent that you were going up against?
Yeah, it's actually, probably the two of them, as in, the first time I went to do an invitational event in the UK, I got invited to do Polaris 7 against Lloyd Cooper, and a few weeks before that I had a match on Grapplefest 1 against James Orr, who was a brown belt at the time, and he was really good. He won the British Open at brown belt. I was a brown belt as well at the time, and I was like, so I had the opportunity to do Grapplefest, and then a couple of weeks later do Polaris. I think it was like maybe 3-4 weeks within the gap or something like that. It was 2018 or something. And I went over, and it was my first time it was my first time competing outside of a tournament in the UK, and on this kind of like sub-only scene. The sub-only scene was like booming in 2017, 18, that's when it was like really, this like kind of the EBI kind of sub-only kind of era. But I remember the first match I had on Grapplefest, going to his hometown, and I ended up winning. Just over 3 minutes, rear naked choke, and then that gave me momentum and even more confidence going into Polaris. And the narrative going into it was, he was a leg locker like Cooper, and he was a very good leg locker, but I knew that I could do leg locks as well, and I was, I felt confident in my leg lock game, and coming from an MMA background, and I felt I could wrestle and kind of have good base, and I could kind of blend it all well together, and I managed to get the heel hook in that one. So just that month period or whatever it was, I think that was like really memorable, because it was all my friends came over to Polaris 7, and loads of lads from the gym. It was in the Indigo in the O2 in London, And it was a good buzz because it was like I was the first one from our area to get onto, Polaris. Obviously, you have the likes of Jack now from Tullamore who's gone it, and then you've had, loads of lads across the country now that have gone it. But back then, I think it was only a handful of us. It was probably like Dara, me, Tom Halpin, probably someone else there I might be forgetting about. But there was only like say 3-4 lads, and yeah, I think that was probably like a really kind of memorable time. So it wasn't necessarily the matches; it was just kind of the confidence from winning one match and then the second match and then the snowball effect it had after. I was like, right, okay, I'm actually decent at this, and I can build on this, and it was a good time.
And what was like the preparation like for a competition like that? Because you said you were used to probably competing in normal tournaments where you probably have maybe 30-40 people watching you, then stepping on a stage where it's a big crowd and it's been broadcast as well. Was there like a mental prep that you had to do, and what was like the physical preparation?
So the mental prep, obviously, you'd be working on your mindset stuff anyway, through whether it's a tournament or, an invitational or an MMA fight. So I'm kind of working on that stuff anyway, and we can get into specifics on that if you want. But I felt, so competing against another person on a stage didn't really bother me too much. Number one, because I done MMA, and two, you're not getting punched in the face. It's like, so it's like, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. We'll have like a jiu-jitsu scrap. Worst case scenario, you get tapped or you get your arm maybe broke, but you're not going to be, badly hurt as you would maybe fighting in a pro MMA fight or whatever it might be. So like that. So I think coming from most lads that have done MMA and then go on to do jiu-jitsu, they're doing it for fun. It doesn't mean they're not taking it serious or taking it serious and stuff like that. But that, like, if you end up on your back in MMA and you can't get up and you have someone on top of you, it could be a lot worse than being on your back and getting your guard passed. It's night and day. So that for me put a lot of things into perspective. It was like, I actually really enjoyed competing in jiu-jitsu under the lights on a stage, and on a good stage as well. So that really kind of excites me, and I actually really do enjoy the kind of invitational kind of build up, because it's similar to the feeling you'd get as in preparing for an individual opponent, but obviously it's not a fight, it's a match. But so I like preparing for an individual, and preparation was probably back then 2018 overtraining. And that was probably like preparation, to be honest with you. It was just like, I don't know, 70-80 rounds a week or whatever it was, and it was just like a lot of rounds and a lot of heavy lifting and overtraining when I look back, to be honest with you. That's and the biggest thing between the way I kind of train now, or the last couple of years, compared to like 2016, 18, that time, is I felt it was overtrained. And I felt like, say, there were some periods there where I was doing quite well in competition, but there was like, I was probably had a bit of burnout and a bit of weight loss, and kind of, there was a few things that, and when I look back and I learned more about overtraining and just like preparing for competitions and stuff like that, I was like, oh, that was me probably overtrained back then,
And would you have done like research, obviously, on your opponent? And as you said, he was a leg locker, you knew it was that, but you're comfortable in that position. Yeah. So did you look online? Because I know a lot of people, when they have matches, like the first thing to do is go to Smooth Comp, they check the record, they go onto Instagram. Was that something that you do, or is it something kind of like actively avoid?
No, so I do that for the lads here that fight in MMA. So I'm used to kind of looking at opponents and removing the kind of the emotion and I suppose all the bells and whistle, and look at it as like, say, just style versus style, or his technique versus his technique, and so on. So I'm a lot of time I like to watch matches and fights and that, say, with no sound. So then I'm not, if there's commentary in that, I'm not getting any biased information. Maybe sometimes I might have the sound on just to hear something like, oh, this lad's IBJF, I know, champion or this and that, and I'm like, okay, so he's probably at this level or whatever it might be. But when I'm looking at individual opponents, say if it was for myself, I would look at him, get an idea of, like, say, tendencies and stuff like that. Does he like to play on his right hip? Does he like to play on his left hip? Is he more of a wrestler? Is he more of a guard passer? Does he like to play inside position, outside position? Are wrestle ups in his game? What type of footlocks does he like to play? Maybe he's a pressure, he's like a pressure passer and he forces you to turtle and then takes the back. So like looking at tendencies and then trying to, I suppose cliche, but avoiding his strengths and then trying to attack his weaknesses, and obviously protecting my weaknesses and then trying to, use my strengths, and then obviously try to level up my weaknesses and so on, as the depending on the time we have and stuff like that. But yeah, it wouldn't really bother me too much about like looking at an opponent. I just kind of, if I've accepted the match and it's me versus him, it's kind of like, right, sure. I think when having, I don't really think having more information is a bad thing. I think the more information you have, the better. It all depends on how you respond to having the information. If people kind of get like anxiety and, oh my god, he's a leg locker, or he's this or that, or he's a wrestler, it's like maybe you shouldn't be in the match. Like, as in, maybe you shouldn't take that match. Like, maybe technically you could be there, or you could be on par, or you could be even better. But if the mental isn't there, maybe you need to step down in competition. So I think you obviously you need to have the physical, the mental, and the technical, and they need to all align. But yeah, no, that wouldn't really bother me too much.
If you go in with the opinion of this person has such a good game and you kind of psych yourself out, like, that is a bad way of approaching the competition. And we were saying just there off camera about, if you look at it as if it's a challenge, like, channel that into a different way. That really, really helps when it comes to competition.
Well, you're gonna feel some type of feelings, and the only thing you can really control is how you respond to the feelings. So it's, if you look at people, you hear some people, I've been in dressing rooms with certain people over the years, even big competitions, the likes of Polaris and stuff like that, and I've heard people, like high level lads, say to me stuff like, oh, I'm nervous, and like, and everyone has some type of feeling, you know what I mean, whether you want to call them butterflies, you want to call them nerves, or excitement. I think excitement is a good way of looking at it. Like, you're excited to see what's going to happen. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have any anxiety or self-doubt. That's normal. But like, say, even just replacing the word, the words nervous with excitement, like that for me is nearly like a flip in, kind of like a switch in your mindset. It's like, I'm excited. Like, you feel about, or think about how you feel when you say you're excited to do something versus I'm nervous to do something. And it's like, you're going to have those feelings. Like, those feelings they're meant to be there. If you didn't have those feelings, I would be more worried. I've, coached a lot of people over the years, whether it was through MMA or grappling. And sometimes you might get someone doesn't have, like, say, any feelings. They're flat. And like, that's probably the worst place you could be. Like, don't get me wrong, you can be chilled. There's people that are chilled when they compete and they look like they're just going for a walk in the park and stuff like that. But if you're flat, that's a problem. But I think, like, what you say, you have to watch what you say, because what you say becomes your thoughts, and then your thoughts become your actions, and your actions become your habits. So it's really important. Like, you have to just watch, I suppose, who you're taking information from, as in the words that they're saying to you. If you have someone there that's in there and like they're just a nervous person, you're going to a competition with them, it's probably not going to be that good. It's going to rub off on you. Where if you have someone that's positive and exciting and having a crack and stuff like that, you're like, oh, look, this is going to be good. It's going to be a good day. We'll try our best, and then after this, we'll go to, go off and get food, and we'll have a few beers or whatever it might be, and not try to take it too serious either. Life is there's a lot more serious stuff in life as well, and you can build it up to be as big or as small as you want.
Yeah, and your team isn't going to judge you win or loss. They're just delighted that you went and stepped out on the mats and that you didn't get injured or anything in that regard.
100%, yeah. Like I said, I've had matches over the years, and you say if you lost a match and you'd feel like, oh, I'm terrible at jiu-jitsu, and it's the worst thing in the world, and that. And then a couple of days go by, and then you kind of lick your wounds and stuff like that. I goes, there's another thing coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and you see it for what it is. I made a technical error there. I should have zigged when I zagged. I passed my guard and he got the points or whatever it was. And then you just, like we said a few minutes ago, like, say, if that was a weakness, make that a strength, and you put yourself into those positions, you kind of work those situations and those scenarios, and then hopefully that becomes a strength, and then you're not getting passed on that side, or you're not getting caught because you've changed that kind of tendency or that habit that you have, but yeah, it's all, I think, like, the way you view it is really important, so like, people I feel that do the best are people are, they're able to bounce back from a loss quick and then assess it as in, remove themselves from the situation and say, I should have done this instead of this, or maybe I did too much in this in the lead up to it, and then now next time I'm going to use that information, bring it forward, and then see how we do. And I think people that bounce back from a loss quicker end up doing a lot better in the sport in the long run.
They take the positives with the
Yeah,
negative.
take the positives in that, and it's like it's if you're going to sit around and you lick your wounds for like 2-3 weeks after a match and you miss training, I was like, take your couple of days to lick your wounds and let the body heal up and that, but you want to be back on the mat straight away. One of the biggest things that kill, I suppose, progression is big gaps in training. You see, like, people that do like short bursts of intensity versus everyone has a guy in their gym where he shows up and he does his 3 or 4 sessions every single week. He does like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, or whatever it is, and that's his day or his days or her days religiously. They're the people that do the best over time. It's the turtle versus the hare. In my opinion, I was like, it's you're playing the long game.
Yeah, and it's compound, it builds up.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Compound interest. Like you can't beat it. Like you see, especially you see with beginners and stuff like that, they come into the sport and they get like really excited and they just go like absolutely hell for leather for 6 months to a year. Maybe they get their blue belt and then just bang, gone. And it's just like, whereas like I take a lot of pride in still doing this long and still being on the mats. Training with the lads and trying to get back to competition and stuff like that. And I take a lot of pride in, just being, that saying where it's like, it's not who's good, it's who's left.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's so true. And I take a lot of pride in like still doing this because there's so many people over the last close to 20 years or whatever it is, that I've trained with that could have been good, that were good. And then now they're just like, they're gone away doing different things. And I know that life gets in the way and stuff like that, but it's like it's nice to be able to set out to do a goal, achieve the goal, and then set new goals. Say the goal in the beginning was to get to a black belt or become a black belt, and then now it's like to really be a black belt and get a lot better and start like understanding the art.
A lot of people say when you get the black belt, it's like a reset. You're starting from the very bottom again and just continuing on and on.
It really is. And I think I'm only 7 years as a black belt. I think 7 years now as a black belt. And I thought I understood that the first year after getting my black belt. I thought like, yeah, I'm gonna get better at an armbar, for example. I thought I could do an armbar really well. Now I know I need to get better. And there's levels to all techniques. People have their. You can't be a specialist in all areas. You can't be like, say, a specialist in deep half and say outside passing and wrestling and leg locks now. But you're going to have areas where you're really good in. But then you're going to have your areas where you get people into these areas. That's where you kind of do your kind of best work on that. And I thought I really understood that, or I was starting to understand that. And it was only like, say, the last couple of years where I'm like, oh, now I kind of feel I'm starting back from the beginning. And it's not necessarily like adding more techniques, and there's always that element, but it's more understanding why things work and why they don't work. So it's like trying to understand things on a deeper level, but even like simpler. So it's not like, say, making it more how would I say it? I suppose like, say, more complicated. It's like simplifying it. And then if someone asks you a question, like, say, on technique and that, and it's like, oh, if you put your knee here and you put your chest here and you block this will kind of give you kind of good results. And then after we kind of get this down, then we can add in this, and this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of more like just like
Fine-tuning
it and just having a deeper understanding of why things work versus why they don't work.
You touched on about you're comfortable in the leg lock position. I suppose when I first was coming up in the sport 7 years ago, actually you're a black belt longer than I've been training, but when I heard of your name, the first thing anyone would say, Kieran's leg locks and your back attacks. But over the years, you've seen how you're like, as you were saying, you're expanding out, you're more developing areas like the octopus guard and you're wrestling. And you were saying like you're fine-tuning all these details. For someone who's maybe looking to like expand out their game and they're looking down these new avenues, what approach would you tell them to take when they're adding these into their game?
Like, it depends on where you are in your career or where you are in your journey, I suppose, and what level you're at. But there's like the secret ingredient is having fun and being excited to learn a new kind of area or system or position or, you know, whatever name you want to put on it. Like I could turn around and we could have like, say, a good brown belt here or a good purple belt, and I could turn around and say, oh, your positional game is very good. I think now for, like, say, maybe sub-only comps, you need to start working on leg locks. So we kind of mentioned leg locks, so we kind of stay with that example. And it's like, if that person isn't excited to learn leg locks, they're not going to be motivated to do the extra work outside the gym, put themselves into those leg lock positions in the gym against lower color belts or whatever it might be, get tapped, you know, and not kind of bring their A game. So I really think that being excited to learn a new area is really important. So it's like, I know there's so many things that I know I should learn that I haven't really been drawn towards putting more time in. And when I think you'll do it at the right time as well. You know, maybe it might take going to a competition and getting burnt, or getting cut through, or losing a certain match because you didn't have as much knowledge or experience in a certain area as what you thought you had. You know, but I really think the secret ingredient is just excitement and being passionate about it and willing to learn. You know what I mean? If you go back to the example we're using about the early days with the DVD, it was like if someone handed me like a DVD in 2008 on the saddle, it would literally be like showing a caveman like how to light a fire. You know, it'd be like
Yeah.
It's like a cheat code. It's like the Matrix. Do you know what I mean? So for me, like even now, I'm looking a lot at looking a lot at Barrett Yoshida. He's the crucifix guy, and he's like, I think he's had like 100+ wins at black belt by crucifix, and I'm really enjoying. Like, they're not new techniques or anything like that, but just this is what I've been drawn towards in my own game. It's like adding, like I'm adding more kind of crucifix kind of game to my own, and like say I was inspired back in the day by Marcelo Garcia, and he had a really good crucifix game, and I went out and I trained with him a few times in New York from purple belt all the way to black belt, and he was my favorite kind of grappler kind of when I was in the or on the way up, and I had MG in action and all that, so I learned a lot. That was a few years later actually. That's like post the DVD, the Darce DVD and Submissions 101 on YouTube. We got login details from one of my friends, Marco Conroy. Shout out to him. He gave me his login details, and we shared MG in action, and that's how I learned, like, say, butterfly guard, single leg X, like north south, and that became a staple of my game today. But yeah, I just feel like, say, being excited and being pulled towards a certain area at a certain time in your journey is just going to happen. You can't fight it. You can't force it. You either want to learn something or you don't want to learn it. Like, say, I'd love to be able to play the guitar like the best guitarist in the world, and be able to go to a party, have a few beers, and sing Oasis and just bang out these tunes, and everyone go, oh, Kieran's a great lad and everything else. But I'm not willing to put the time in to learn the guitar and be a beginner again. Does that make sense? Whereas I will put in the time to do certain crucifix variations or new leg locks, or work my wrestling, or, you know, this morning on the mat was kind of working some escapes from side control bottom and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm willing to put myself in those positions and get better because I'm excited to learn that stuff and just try to make my game better. And to be honest with you, coming back from injury and stuff like that, I'm just excited to be back on the mat and just playing and doing jiu-jitsu again. You know, so I'm really enjoying it.
As like, even with kids when they're learning stuff, it's all through play. So like, you can tell they learn more when you're having fun, and that just applies exactly here.
So I think you came in for the last round I did with Ronan Deegan, and the two of us were like shit talking to each other, and it was like, but it was fun. It was like we got on really well, and if he caught me with something, he'd let me know he caught me with, and, like, you know, same with him. But it's not badness, or when I shit talk's probably a wrong word, but it's that's where the fun is. Like, you're meeting up with your friends and people you get on with, and like, there's a time to train hard and prepare when you have matches coming up and that. But for me, the length of time I'm doing jiu-jitsu and the amount of time I'm doing it, so I just want to have fun on the mats. You know, when I want to learn, I want to have a really good, well-rounded game, and I want to keep adding to it, and I want to keep improving.
Absolutely. And you touched on the wrestling aspect, and in the last few years, especially in the no-gi scene, we've just seen wrestling like kind of dominate, especially for competitions like ADCC. Everyone wants to get like that highlight reel takedown in a sense. But in the last kind of like 2-3 years, this is just my opinion, I've kind of seen it like shifting from like people going for double legs and singles more for like upper body wrestling.
100%.
They're doing like the slide bys, they're doing their duck unders. and it seems to be more effective. It's like that lower risk, higher reward, and they get to the back and then they can do their takedowns and that. But when you're learning these first and someone is looking to maybe chain them, because we both know it's never the first shot that works.
Yeah.
Have you like kind of a system, maybe approach on how you chain these takedowns together?
Yeah. Well, number one, I think you're right. As in, there's been an explosion with wrestling in Nogi over the last couple of years. And to your second point, I feel you're right in saying that there's a lot more. It's geared. It's now moved towards snap down the front headlocks, duck unders, slide bys, arm drags, upper body stuff, foot sweeps and different types of inside outside trips and Greco-Roman stuff. And the reason for that, I believe, is it's kind of they're low risk, high reward. So if you go for a snap down into a front headlock and it goes wrong, you don't get it. You don't lose position. You're still standing in front of your opponent. Maybe you get a reaction. They're starting to posture a bit more. So then that opens up maybe your inside singles connecting the head to the shoulder. Versus if you're shooting double legs and stuff like that, you get sprawled on. You're carrying body weight. You might get into a guillotine or a ninja choke or a Darce choke, whatever it might be. So I think now Nogi has its own style of wrestling. So I feel that you would have the judo guys come in and they'd be like, oh, you have to do judo like this. And then the freestyle wrestlers come in, you have to shoot double legs like this, and you have to be this low to the ground and so on. You have to be touching the floor and stuff like that. Then you have your Greco guys and they'll be in like this and they'll be saying, oh, you have to do, it has to be with double unders, or you have to do side body locking or whatever it is. But then now I find like anything Nogi has evolved and it's took the stuff from those individual sports, like the way MMA has, and it's kind of adapted it to its own. It's like the most obvious example in Nogi, if you look at the stances in judo, Nogi, and freestyle wrestling, it's nearly like the evolution of the man. You know what I mean? So stand up is like the tall standing man is like the judo, so it's like tall because of the rule set and everything else. And then Nogi is kind of somewhere in between, and then your freestyle is like, they're literally hands on the floor, touching the floor, so like using that kind of down block and make sure they're down really low for like their shots and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's evolved. What kind of systems and that do I have for developing it? There's a couple of things. Like, we do specific drills where I think it's important for people to see pathways. So, like, to give you an example, you shoot inside single and then you might go failed outside or failed single, like run the pipe single, and you can't get it, but you get reaction, so it's an off balance. Obviously in judo they call it kazushi. We don't put as much emphasis on it, I feel, in Nogi, but we should. So I think, like, say you shoot a single, there's an off balance, so you drive your person on a back leg. We call it putting an opponent on a floating leg, getting them to bounce. When we run the pipe, we're off balancing them. Your head's to the outside now. Maybe you find you're not able to get it, so what I'm going to do is switch off to a back body lock. Maybe they start to fight the hands on a back body lock. We're going to switch to a high crotch, or we're going to go double leg, whatever it might be. So I think kind of a couple of ways you can do it. So one is showing the people that you're training the chains, and then creating like specific drills of focusing on chaining techniques rather than. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can show a single leg, and you can go, all right, if I first variation, run the pipe single. Second one, pull the foot towards me, trip single. Third technique we're going to show today is we can't get 1 and 2 going, so we lift the knee and we go to knee tap double. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's like showing like a 1, 2, 3 off a single. Or you could do the example that I said. You shoot an inside single, you run the pipe, head goes to the outside, you switch to a back body lock, you try a knee block, but he's like end up fighting the hands. So then what you do is you switch off to a high crotch and you finish from there. So it's kind of, I feel like exposing people to those pathways and then putting certain drills in play where it's like, we're going to go live. All right, because I'm a big believer in live training. I really like this kind of CLA stuff as well, CLA ecological stuff. We've put a lot of that into the gym, and I'm really enjoying it. And we're having good success in that way. I still have a lot more to learn, but I'm doing as much. That's what I'm kind of doing in my spare time, is trying to get up to date with the amount of I suppose there's so many podcasts and books and everything, and
based on it.
Yeah, based on it and that. So I'm really enjoying that side of it. But you know, like so back to the drill. We could do a drill where I'd say, right, Aaron, you're going to start on a single, but we're fully live, but you're not allowed to take your partner down unless you get 2 chains. So that could be single leg, double leg. Really simple. You know what I mean? So you're not allowed to take them down on a single. You have to hit two chains. So it has to be like, you have to change your position on it. All right. And then maybe if you start to get that, we'll go 3 chains. You know what I mean? So it might be like single leg, back, or single leg, double leg. Maybe double leg fails, back, pull them forward into a clinch, finish from a body lock or something like that. Make sense?
Yeah.
So there's different things that you can do with that. So that's kind of like one way of doing it. And I find just like repetition and that over time, and then when things don't work, you know, obviously stop the clock, ask the questions on like why things are working or why things aren't working, and then try go live then again, and then see what holds up, what falls apart, and then see what your kind of training partners are doing to kind of shut you down. So that'll be one way of kind of doing it. So just working in chains and teaching in chains, you know, versus what we said earlier on, like say like a 1, 2, 3 in a single. We'll just go single, back body lock, double leg, for example.
Yeah, and having it nearly like an omnidirectional, so that you know you can switch
Exactly.
when needed.
Yeah.
And it puts them on the back foot, so they think, all right, he's going to shoot this side, but then you switch it up, and then you get your takedown.
Yeah, and you can regress it, and you can progress it, or you can add progressions in and so on. So like say if you want to regress a drill like that, what you could do is no takedowns. So I could turn around and say, right, no resistance. Say you're gonna take your shot. You're gonna attach, lock your hands, connect your head, and then all I want you doing is chaining 2 positions, no takedowns, 3 positions, no takedowns, 4 positions, no takedowns, and getting used to moving around the body. And then eventually, like say, we'll add in say like some resistance and stuff like that. You get your partner to start framing, taking overhooks, pushing your head away, maybe like putting in a knee shield and stuff like that. And then once they kind of start to get through that level, then you can start to add in your takedowns. And what I might do is on the takedowns, I'd remove the pins. Does that make sense? So I'd say, for example, Aaron, right, you have to do, you start in a single leg, but you have to do 2 chains. And all I want you to do is get your partner's hand, knee, hip or shoulder to touch the floor. Don't worry about scrambles or pins. If you take your partner down, we'll just stop it there. All right. Because we don't want to turn it into positional sparring. The goal was so the question was, how do we get to chain takedowns better? You know what I mean? Or how do we put a system in play to do that? So it's like, and then after we get that, then we'll add in like say how to pin off those certain situations. You know, whereas if we started out like saying, right, Aaron, I want you to close the distance with your shot, and I want you to chain 2 or 3 takedowns together, and I want you to focus on your pin. Like there's so many different skills inside that we have to develop. You know, like say closing the distance and setups on your takedowns are really important. Maintenance and control in the position, the off balances that we spoke about, the change of direction, and then the pinning. So it's like stripping it back and looking at the area that you want to work.
And that constraint led approach is it's great for that. You're isolating each of them.
I find it fantastic. Like I taught a class on Thursday night. It was a fundamentals class, and we were doing triangle escapes. And it was really good. We did early to mid stage triangle escapes, and there was a stage there in the room where no one was getting triangled, and we were starting in triangles. And for me as a coach, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Now we'd all the way from white belt up, like all the colors on the mat on Thursday, and it was like like as a coach, when you see that, you're like, okay, this is working. And what we worked on was like certain kind of cues, like say where you want your shoulders. So you want your shoulders behind your hips. We worked on this kind of chin tuck variation, so they can't get connection on the carotid artery for the triangle. And then we were working on like thumb posts and knee grips and stuff like that. And the first goal was basically stay safe in the triangle. Keep the details, or keep the use the concepts and focus on the details that we spoke about, and just don't let your partner break your posture. Yeah. You know, and then what we added in when we seen that the room was able to not get triangled, then it was like, now I want you to either get 2 hands in or 2 hands out. Don't worry about the guard pass. All right. And then once we seen that the room were doing well there, then we progressed then again. It was like, you're going to start in a triangle, and then now what I want you to do is pass the guard. And then after we ticked all those boxes, we actually went into mid-stage triangle. So where a posture was broken, someone had maybe a collar tie or a collar grip, and then we're working from there. And then what was happening then, we start to run into problems with kind of grips and stuff like that. We're like, right, we'd stop the live training. We'd talk as a group and we'd say, well, what was your training partner doing to you? And they might say, oh, he kept getting this collar tie and he kept getting this like wrist grip, and what would you do here? And then we kind of all worked it out, and then we put it back into a live drill, and then if it fixed it, all well and good. If it didn't, then we'd kind of work with that person to try, improve that area and that. So, but like Thursday night was just one example where it's like, oh, that worked really well, and I took a lot of pride in it as a coach to say, like, there was certain rounds there, was good few rounds there where no one was getting triangled. Now, don't get me wrong, you go into the heat in a moment, competition, pressure, someone fires up triangle, and then you forget that, maybe the reason is you haven't spent enough time in it, or whatever it is. Usually it's something like that. And sometimes you could be fatigued, or maybe someone has like performance anxiety or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of different factors when it comes to competition. So that's why it's hard to kind of replicate the intensity of a competition in the gym. You can do the best you can, but I suppose it's just competition's competition. Maybe like if you went training in a different gym with new bodies, that might create some type of kind of anxiety, or whatever you want to call it, nerves, or whatever it might be, which is good, you know what I mean? And then like competition is, it's kind of different. It's kind of,
It's hard to replicate.
it is hard to replicate, like, especially in MMA and stuff like that, and even jiu-jitsu as well. You do the best you can in the gym. You create the intensity, in the sessions that you feel that would be similar to competition and that, but just there's so many things that you can't turn on in people until they're like stepping out on the mats at a big competition, whether it's like, I don't know, Europeans or ADCC or IBJF or whatever it might be. It's just like, but you just do the best you can as a coach and as a team, and and you trust in your training and everything else. And then like we're kind of going back on what we were saying, like mindset is something that you should be working as an individual as well. So, and I think that comes down to, I suppose, taking ownership over that.
Yeah, the constraint led approach seems to be really building momentum in the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And you were just saying there off camera that like some people are fully in on it, and then there's others that are more like the traditional path.
Yeah.
And you said you'd be more in the middle.
Yeah, I'm, as of now, as of the day or today, as in the day we record this podcast, for lack of better words, I am a hybrid coach. As in, I probably get shot for saying that, but like, I came up with technique and traditional kind of training and the way we've learned that. I have took a lot of influence from other sports, like field sports, athletics, wrestling, boxing. I like to listen to a lot of boxing coaches, MMA, everything. So I take a lot of inspiration from coaches and high performers in general. Like, I like the, I really like the F1 and the way they kind of like focus on high performance and stuff like that. As of now, right now in my kind of coaching journey, I like technique, and I really like the CLA stuff. And maybe in 5 years' time, if we do another podcast, I might be all CLA or I might be all technique. But as of today, I am like, say, I'm doing both, and I'm kind of tying the two of them into the way I teach. So I'd show a bit of technique and the position or the area that we wanna work. I know it's important to I suppose what I want to say first is I know it's important to understand the correct terminology when you're talking about CLA. I'm still learning it. By no means am I a master in it or anything like that. I'm listening to podcasts, I'm watching instructionals, I'm reading books and all that, because I do feel there is something to it, and I do see a lot of success with my own lads, especially with the wrestling and certain areas that we're trying to work. But I feel as time goes on and as I get more knowledge in the area and I speak to kind of more people that are using it, I feel I'll get better at it. And I'm open-minded to, if there's a day comes where we're just not teaching technique and we're just figuring it out. I know I'm kind of joking a little bit, but like we're just doing CLA and different kind of stuff that's going to get us better, then we're going to do that. If there's a better way, we're going to do it. So if I can get lads better in a shorter amount of time, so I can get you to a higher level in a shorter amount of time, and you tell me it's the opposite to the way I've been teaching classes, then I'm going to do that. So that's why I'm very open to CLA, and exploring that avenue, and I'm implementing it in my classes.
And we touched on the wrestling aspect and how it's a big influence in like the no-gi scene. And last weekend was the ADCC Ireland event. You're the president of ADCC Ireland. How did you get involved with the organisation?
Yeah, I just obviously been doing ADCC trials and that for a good few years out in Poland and places like this, and got to know a few people like Marco and Marius, and they basically contacted me and said that the ADCC was gone out of Ireland for a good few years, and they felt that I was the right person to kind of, I suppose, promote it and kind of push it, the rule set in Ireland and stuff like that. Asked me would I be interested, and I said I'd be interested in talking to them. So I met them out in Poland a few years ago, and we met up and we had a chat, and Marco was, you obviously liked the way, I was, and the way I kind of responded to it, and how passionate I was about the ADCC rule set and that. And he said to me that he thinks I was the man for the job. And then we kind of got everything done and kind of sorted there when we were in Poland. And then we kind of came back, and then the rest is history, as they say. I was asked before to take on, different kind of tournaments through some kind of different organizations and stuff like that. But just I wasn't passionate about the rule set, and for me it was nearly like a headache. I was like, I wasn't looking to get into running jiu-jitsu tournaments, to be honest with you. I've focused on coaching and training and stuff like that. And then when the ADCC came around, and how, like, ADCC for me, every time it comes down every 2 years, it's like I just clear my weekend, and it's like just binge watching jiu-jitsu. Same with trials, and I love watching trials, and like I watch the last trials, I watch all the trials, and I really enjoy it. And I just really like the rule set, and I get to see really good wrestling, really good, like, say, submission game, really good guard pass, and it's just exciting for me. And it's kind of like, for me, it's nearly like the way the UFC used to be, where they're not all in the same uniform. You see individual characters. You someone that's like in a pink full nogi set, rash guard shorts, and or you like say get some jacked young lad like 17 years of age where just a pair of I don't know, shorts on, or a gi on, or whatever it is. So you get, there's like characters, and that's what I like about it. You see like a young lad, and he's just, or you say Helena, for example, she wears the full leopard set and stuff like that, and it's just like they're individual characters. Where sometimes when you go to some tournaments, there's like you all must wear
X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, and Z. So I think that's the way it's gone in a way, and there's a place for everything. So I think there's a madness to ADCC and a professionalism, and it just goes really well, and it's like, it goes back to the fun, the fun aspect that we were speaking about. Like I said, the matches last weekend at ADCC were fantastic, and they were really good to watch, and you just see the young lads coming through and that, and there was like side control is now a bad position. If you're 17 years of age, there's young lads, like I had one young lad, say Roland Herford, who's a great young lad. He won gold. He passed the side control, and it was like, oh, there's the pass, push for the pass, and then some young lad threw up a boogie choke on him. And he was in the boogie choke for like a couple of minutes. Now, in fairness to him, he knew how to get out, and he got out, and he ended up winning the match, I think, by rear naked choke and that. But it was just like, side control is now a bad position, like depending on the weight class, and not a bad position, but it can be dangerous, with the got lock, and with, like, say, the boogie choke and that. Like, so that there's an example of the evolution of the sport. And I know that's not just in ADCC, it's in all kind of grappling and that, but it's amazing how far it's came. And it's just like, then you look at the higher level lads, like, you had the likes of Jermaine and Mohammed, just to, name a couple. Just like the level that those lads are just fantastic. And it's just like, you got to really see how good Jermaine has got over the last few years in the ADCC rule set. Like, I honestly do, I know I've been kind of hyping him up in that the last few kind of interviews and that I've done, but like, I really do think that he's really good at the rule set now. He's coming into his own. I think he's going to do damage over the next couple of years in ADCC trials, and he's a really good style for it. And I'd say in the next couple of years he'll definitely take a medal from trials.
And even just like watching the matches, like I do work the table doing the judging, and it's the best seat in the house. Like, it really is the best
unbelievable
seat.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is you see people coming in, like, let's take Jermaine for example. He has been in the absolute final for the last nearly four or five,
nearly the beginning,
and every time you can see like he's just chipping away at it.
Chipping away, yeah.
And he's got it. And now
Yeah.
he's won back-to-back titles.
2 titles now, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've seen it with Eric Souza as
Yeah.
well, and Gianluca, he's done well.
Yeah.
And it's just, as you were saying, like they're going to do some damage.
Yeah, they're going to do some damage. And that was the other thing about ADCC rule, the ADCC rule set in Ireland and having the tournaments. I feel that, obviously the bulk of the training and everything that they're doing is obviously going to be done in their gym and that, but I feel that we've created a platform for Irish-based athletes to get experience at the ADCC rule set, so when they go to trials, they'll have more success. And I honestly do believe that Irish athletes are going to have a lot more success in trials over the next couple of years, and you're starting to see it already. Because it's like, if ADCC wasn't here in Ireland, you'd have to fly to the UK, and you have to fly to Poland, and you have to fly to Moldova, and all these different places to get experience under the rule set. And now that we have kind of like a scene here now, I feel it's going to be like the UK. You have like your own O'Flanagans, and you have like, say, your Owen Jones and your Ross Nichols, and there's loads of Ash Williams and loads of good lads that came out of the UK. And I feel that that's going to happen in Ireland. And another thing, like last weekend, what we got to see was we had a lot of lads coming in from the USA, which was really good, that have, like, say, experience competing at the ADCC over there. Like, say, a couple of them had, like, medals at the ADCC Las Vegas Open, and, a few different kind of opens out there and stuff like that. So I do really feel that this year for ADCC, I felt it took a couple of years to get momentum, but I feel like after that last tournament, I feel next year is going to be a really big year for ADCC, as in the sport in Ireland, and it's just, I feel it's given the grapplers like a really good stage to compete on. There's other fantastic tournaments in the country, and they do really well. You have your IBJF style tournaments, you have your sub-only tournaments, and then you have your ADCC kind of tournaments. And I just feel that I'm really, really happy where it's at. And there was just like a really good buzz around the weekend, and it's like there's a bit of prestige now to winning the absolute title, and there's a bit of prestige like winning a professional division, and even winning like an intermediate division if you're at that level and stuff like that. I've seen certain coaches putting up, like, say, we have 2 professional we've 2 professional ADCC medals. We're coming for more next year and stuff like that. And it's nice to see that it's it's becoming prestigious in the country. And even fighting for the teams fighting for the titles, the academy titles and the team titles, and it's really nice to see that it's starting to become like a really good, like, recognised tournament in the country,
Absolutely. And everyone wants that new belt design, and even the new medals as well.
Yeah, the new medals are like, the both are now are class, but the new medals now are, they're our best medals, yeah. And the belt as well, which we keep trying to make the belts better. And I suppose that's the goal with the tournament, is like every tournament, and you see this yourself, every tournament we're like, how will we make this better? And it's like, even if it's just a couple of small changes to equipment, speakers, mats, uniforms, medals, belts, cash prizes, whatever it might be. So we've loads of plans now next year to make it better. Again, it started out with there was no financial backing or anything like that. It was all just like kind of gain experience, kind of push it, scrape, scrap, borrow, whatever it took to build it up to what it's becoming. But I really do think it's positive on the Irish Jiu-Jitsu scene. I feel that it's not here to push any other tournament out or take over any style or say our style is better or this and that. It's just like, this is the rule set that I'm passionate about. This is the rule set that other people in the country are passionate about. And it's like, you have people that are passionate about doing IBJF, people that want to do MMA, wrestling, sub-only, whatever it is. There's now a scene for the ADCC kind of rule set in Ireland, and it gives those young lads something to work towards, other than different types of tournaments. So now they have options, and say last weekend I feel I try focus on the positive, like, say, I feel last weekend the positive was there was like 4 jiu-jitsu tournaments in the one weekend. I know you could look at the negative and go, they should be spaced out and this and that, and I get that, I agree. But like, it seemed like the Shamrock Cup did really well. Sheridan's competition did really well. We had our biggest biggest registration, biggest turnout for any tournament since we've started. I seen Grapple City were on. They were giving away money. They gave like €500 out for a team. So there was the Invitational event, and I feel that like, how could that not be a positive thing? You know, like there's no one, as far as I can see, there's no one fighting with each other, and it's just like kind of like, you know, people. I think people should focus on the positives of having more places to compete in. Everyone's going to find their place. Like if you're a gi guy, you're going to go compete in the gi. If you're like, say, an no gi IBJF lad, you're going to go compete, like, say, you know, in a certain tournament. If you're like ADCC and you want to, like you say, you want to push that style, or maybe you're a wrestler or MMA guy, and wherever, you're going to go do that. You know what I mean? If you're down south of the country where it is, or wherever it is, you might go to you know, Grapple City, or, you know, the Invitational event where there's some great matches on that, and it's like, go do that. But there's options. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's no different to like kickboxing or Thai boxing in the country. There's not like one. I'm sure there's more than one kickboxing tournament and Thai boxing tournament on today in the country. There's probably like 6-7 fight nights in kickboxing all across the country, or maybe more. I don't even know. But you know what I mean? I know fight nights are different tournaments, but I think it's good. I think it's positive. I think it's a sign that jiu-jitsu is after exploding in the country. So this is what we wanted in the beginning. We said we want to get more kids and more teens and more people and more women and, you know, more masters and everything involved in a sport. It's now here. You know, it's happening. So it's like, don't fear change. You know what I mean? It's positive, and it's part of the natural progression of any sport. You know, so I think it's good. I think it's good for everyone.
It's amplifying the sport. It really
100%.
is.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like goes back to what we're saying about those UK grapplers that like have done really well over the years. I'd say we'll just use ADCC for example. That's happening in Ireland. There's stars being born in Ireland, you know, competing on the likes of Polaris and doing IBJF Europeans, and, you know, having a good crack at trials and all this type of stuff. Just giving people more opportunity, and it's getting more young lads invested in a sport instead of going to your traditional field sports in the country. Now they have more options. And, you know, you kind of look at, like, say, look at Russia, and you look at like kind of different kind of Eastern European countries, not like, say, combat sports are, you know, really, really popular over there. And I feel it's just giving the kids, you know, more options.
And just even to touch back on the competition that took place last weekend, was there any matches in particular that kind of stood out to you, or maybe an individual that had a performance that you were like, they're on fire today?
Yeah, there was so many good matches. Like, say, the person that I give the performance of the day to, we give him the kind of the prize and that on the day, was Muhammad. Like, and I know, like, not necessarily like a breakout star, but just like, you know, when I was watching his jiu-jitsu, I was like, it was so slick. It was so slick, and it was like he got 5 subs against really good lads, and he had a like cracking match with Jermaine in the final. Really good match. I really enjoyed watching that. So he's very good. You know, Richie B, you know, again, I think he's after winning the 70 kilo back to back. Was it 2 times or 3 times or something? 2 times anyway.
3 times, I think, yeah.
2 times. So like he's always like, say, solid, you know, really good. There were so many good young lads that I didn't know that were just, like, said, you know, kind of new blue belts that were just, you know, unbelievable. Like, say, I had a few people. I did the Energize asked me to do a clip for them where it was like, name your top 5 favourite grapplers, Irish-based grapplers to look at now. Obviously they did one with Max, and it was like, who's your favourite of all time, or whatever. And they did one with me where it was basically, who's your favourite 5 to look at now. Obviously I had you know, the 3 lads that were on Polaris and stuff like that, and Mark Dowd and Stu and stuff. It was like, I had lads coming up to me and saying, oh, I seen that clip, I'm going to be on that list next year. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, so it does, obviously, you know, if all that stuff, it's more eyes on the sport. People are talking about jiu-jitsu. The Energized lads, in fairness to them, did a great job on promoting the event and promoting the lads. I thought that was fantastic. I feel that now they're getting kind of like the jiu-jitsu guys are getting getting some of the, I suppose, the social media attention that the MMA guys will get, and then as a result you get more eyes in the sport. I mean, their friends and their family will see like clips and different kind of, you know, interviews of them, and, you know, whoever it might be going up on their Instagram page, and they'll be like, oh, he's actually doing something with his life. You know, he's not just rolling around on the ground with his friends. He's trying to build a career. Yeah, that's why I find it's very hard for me to explain my job to people that don't know jiu-jitsu. They kind of go through my Instagram like, why are you lying on the ground? It's like, roll it. you know, my mother-in-law was like, you do that rolling around the ground stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do, yeah.
The Mexican
In a
ground
nutshell,
karate.
yeah.
And you recently announced on the ADCC page that for the 2026 season, there is some new changes to the rules and new categories. Maybe you can just do a quick overview of these for us.
Yeah, so we have we've added an extra Masters division. So it'll be plus 45 now. So we've some lads that have been training years are now moving into that like 45 kind of category. So there's going to be two. So you're 35 and you're 45. We have now added an advanced division. So if you have like maybe your purple belt or high level blue belt, and you're not ready to compete against a high level black belt that's European IBJJF European champion, or you don't want to compete against like any of these killers that are doing trials or on Polaris and that, and you're just like say gym purple belt, but like say you work a normal job, you still want to do the ADCC rule set. Maybe you want to dip your toes in it and build experience up. There's now an advanced division for people. Some people are kind of concerned that maybe it would get the expert divisions kind of watered down and stuff like that. That's not the way we kind of are viewing it. We feel that it's going to hopefully draw more people to come into the sport, and as a result then people are going to move on to expert divisions and so on. If it doesn't work, we'll take it back out and we'll just keep doing what we're doing, but we're not afraid to try new stuff. So that's the big thing with that. We kind of took inspiration from the American ADCCs, and we now have a clear guideline on, like say we're using kind of jiu-jitsu belt colors to kind of nearly help give you more direction on what divisions that you should compete in. So with along with experience as well. So we're giving people like say years of training and their belt colors, so giving them kind of better guidelines to work in to try combat sandbagging. Because that's just the nature of any sport. If anyone can, some people they don't want to compete against the best. They just want to keep winning gold medals and putting up in their Instagram and saying, I won today and that's it, and I'm an absolute killer. I've won the beginner division the last X amount of years in a row, and that's it. But we're trying our best to combat sandbagging and to get people to compete in the divisions that they should be in. I felt we did a really good job of it on the last ADCC. We've been a lot more strict. We have been strict on it, but now we kind of know who the repeat offenders are. So we have a book. Yeah. We have a book, and we just kind of like, it's not even, in fairness, like, it's not us. It's just like, not just us. It's like you get other coaches and teams going, hey man, he won such and such at the Europeans, or he's been on X amount of invitationals and he's a white belt division, or whatever it might. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's try combat that type of stuff. They're kind of the biggest changes, and then we some really good stuff in regards production on that coming next year. So some really good stuff. We're going to step it up another level, and we're taking inspiration from some of the best ADCCs in our opinion around the world. So we're just going to make it a better experience for the athletes. So giving them more exposure, trying to be like say better with the way that the competition runs. Just we've some really good stuff in the works. Like say, my goal would be, and I'm saying this now on camera, is the more registrations we get, I would love to get the prize money to €2,000. That's the goal. It was like, if we can get more registers than that, I want to give back more, and that's it. And it was like, and anyone that runs a tournament or a big tournament will know the costs. Whatever you think the costs are in your head, exit by 3, because it's like the costs are huge. So it's a big gamble to run a tournament, and you need the registers because that's how you pay everything, pay staff bills, whatever it might be. And that's just the truth, and that's just where you roll the dice, and it's like you do your best to promote stuff and hope it works out, and everything else. But my goal would be to get that up to like €2,000 for the Pro Absolute, and then even what we have in the works as well is we haven't announced it yet, but we will have our own ADCC nighttime invitational events coming next year under the ADCC rule set. And if we can get, I won't say too much, but it's going to be really, really good. I want to do something a little bit different, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be under the ADCC rule set. And it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely, because some of those matches in the absolutes, like
They deserve to be on a stage.
they do.
They deserve to be on a stage, in fairness. Yeah. So if we can recreate some of those matches that nearly go, I wouldn't say unnoticed in the tournament, but there's not too many eyes on it. Like, I feel if people could see that, like, it will give the lads even more of a stage, and it just more eyes on the sport, and it just kind of creates more opportunities on that for everyone else. We've some good stuff to announce next year, so hopefully for next year, so hopefully within the next few weeks or a month or so, we'll be able to announce some of it. But so far so good, you know.
Awesome. I can't wait for the Invitational, because even like sitting at that judges table and you're watching some of these matches, you're just thinking, I'm like, this would be savage under the big lights and on a stage.
Yeah, the ADCC rule set, one match under lights on a big stage, I think would be amazing. You know, I think it'd be really good. And now, you know, people that are involved in ADCC and the sport as a whole, and not even just as in working at ADCC, but like, you know, coaching at ADCC and, you know, competing in ADCC and stuff like that. There's now like a storyline behind it. You know, you have Zara winning the division twice, and you have like, say, Jermaine, and you have like, say, John Luca, and you have like, say, Eric, and it's like, you know, if Eric comes back, is he going to be able to beat Jermaine? And if John Luca comes in, is it, you know, there's like, I'm just using the absolute, but then there's like all the kind of stories that go on in the 83 kilo pro, or, you know, the pro divisions, and even the master division has its own kind of story. Like, say, Stu won the master absolute, and then you had Adrian that won it the time before that. He kind of went through and leg locked everyone, and then you had like, say, George Santos, and now George Santos is sending like eye emojis on Instagram, and he's saying he's coming for the belt and that. So you put him back in the mix, and it's like, and the lads beat him, and he was fantastic when he did ADCC. He was really good at the rule set, and he was very good at like he's obviously a great competitor anyway, but he was very good at like understanding how to score under ADCC rules. He was very good at. We had a young girl, she just got her purple belt the other night, and Bella and a couple of lads were saying to me the other night, or sent to me at ADCC about Catty Foy. So Catty Foy trains under me. She's training since she's 6 years of age. She's now 17, and she just got her purple belt, say, last week. And she needs a shout out, because she went in as a blue belt, and she competed against like black belts and brown belts and that, and she did absolutely fantastic at 17 years of age. So that's the future of the sport. But going back to talking to Bella and Jay and a few of the lads, they were saying like the last person that is seen using the rule set, or playing to the rule set and using the point scoring system as well as, or the best that they've seen was George Santos, and now they've seen Catty that was like on par with George Santos. The way she was playing the game, you know, the neon belly mount game, 3/4 mount game, getting, you know, and getting her points and stuff like that at 17. You know, so it's fantastic. You know, all these girls and lads are coming through. So she deserves a special mention. I know I'm probably a bit biased because she's from this gym, and I was coaching her and that. But 17, and, you know, going against like brown and black belts, you know, black belt silver, like black belt world medalists and everything else, and, you know, she did absolutely fantastic. You know, she was like, it was unbelievable. You should look at the matches if you haven't seen them. But like, if 17 years of age as a blue belt going against black belts, it's just
Crazy.
like, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, who
does that?
Do you know what I mean? It's just like a blue belt like going against like black belts and holding their own and doing quite well and sweeping them and doing everything else. It's amazing, and there's loads of good examples of kids coming through like that. So like, I think we're going to get to the stage where America is, where you have these kind of like, we have it already, but like these killers at like, say, 17 and that, where they're just like taking out black belts. I think that's going to be the next kind of thing, because like your 6-year-olds are going to turn into 20-year-olds, and you're going to see more of this growing on as a result of jiu-jitsu just growing in Ireland.
The young people coming up now, they are the future of where the sport is going, and it's crazy. Like Mark Dowd, perfect example.
Yeah.
Like, he just, when you see him step on the mat, even like he goes into these absolute brackets, and he's 70, 76 kilos, and he's taking out monsters, like absolute monsters.
Yeah, I've seen him take out some like big men, like, you know, lads 95 kilos, like that are built like Ninja Turtles, that are like triangling them and like foot locking people and like arm bars. He's like, I gave him a shout out recently, but he is a sniper, and I feel that the more time he spends under the likes of ADCC rule set, that's the route he wants to go, or maybe the IBJF or whatever rule set, wherever he wants to kind of take his career. He's young enough to go either direction, to be honest with you. But I think that he's definitely one to watch. He's like his submission game is excellent.
100%. And Kieran, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Really excited to see where things go at ADCC next year. You can always expect me to be working on a judge's table, but just for yourself, have you any goals that you want to accomplish in the next year, whether it's to do with your own training, whether it's to do with ADCC, and have you anything that's coming up on the horizon?
But yeah, I suppose I have a few different goals. There's like the goals of a coach. I want to keep pushing the team to the next level, kind of bring on the new wave that are coming through, whether that's our MMA team or our grappling team. So I want to kind of keep improving my coaching and kind of keep helping the lads get the results that they're getting and just kind of get on to bigger stages and that, which I feel we're doing. We've great momentum behind us with the grappling team. There's a great culture here, and the MMA team are flying it. So I want to keep building on that, working on that, and I feel over time, as the years go on and we keep doing the work that we're doing, I feel we'll have our day, in the sun, as in we'll have our time as in on the biggest stages and that. So I feel that that's where we're going. So whether that's with the MMA team or kind of pushing the grappling team, so I feel that's where I want to go as a coach, keep improving it. And then with myself, obviously coming back from injury, I'm really grateful just to be training consistent, lifting consistent, back grappling, doing really good rounds, kind of watching who I roll with as well at the same time. I'm trying to still in recovery, trying to get the back right. I'm grateful that I'm able to just train pain free, so that's a bonus, and that's where I want it to be. And what I would really love is to get back compete myself. So I'd love to get into, get some fun invitational matches, maybe jump into an ADCC myself. I'm kind of really like chomping at the bit to jump in and do a division. I know I can't do anything yet because I still have another bit of time to heal the body and that. So maybe I might, when I get the green light to get back competing, I might head over to the UK or somewhere and jump into an ADCC there. But just want to I know this isn't going to last forever. You're not going to be always going to be able to compete and that. So it's like I want to enjoy it now while I'm young, healthy, and I've only 3 kids and not 7. So so that's the goal, is just improve the team, improve myself as a coach, as a competitor, and understand that one day we'll have our day in the sun and we'll be able to kind of show the level that we're at. Just have to be consistent, keep showing up, and eventually we'll get there.
Incredible. And if anyone is interested in training with you, maybe they want to come down and train in the gym here in Tullamore, maybe they want to host you for a seminar, which is the best place to reach you or Éire Grapple online?
The easiest place is you can give us a shout on Éire Grapple Instagram page, my Instagram page. We've an open door policy. People can come in and train all levels. The only thing we ask is have a good attitude and be good to your training partners, and don't injure anyone like that. But anyone's welcome, regardless of affiliation, clubs and all that. We just like training and stuff like that. Have a YouTube channel there. We're trying to build it up, KD Grappling, so you can kind of check that out for techniques and stuff like that. You'll see me at the ADCCs and that. So if you have any questions or you want to come and train or anything like that, just give us a shout.
Awesome. Perfect. Kieran, thank you so much.
Nice.
And if you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you're listening to the audio version, I'd greatly appreciate if you could give me a 5-star review. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like, share and subscribe. And again, Kieran, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks very much. Cheers.